I'm going to go ahead and start the recording. And as I said earlier, today we're going to be talking about the liver. It's the hepatic organ of the body.
The
And
liver.
and as always, you guys are always welcome to jump in with any questions, comments, or concerns you may have. You don't always have to wait until I'm done with the slide. You can always just feel free to raise your hand or jump in. Okay, let's get started here. As always, oh my, this photo is really low quality. I wasn't aware that it would be such low quality. That's a little unfortunate, but it's still legible, so we're good. Um, as you guys know, I like to start off always talking about the function of the liver. Um, and before we talk about the function, I just want to go back to the first slide so you guys genuinely know where the liver is. It's on the upper right hand side of the abdominal cavity. So if I stand up here and I say my lungs are right here, this is where my liver is. It's on the upper right hand side, right kind of under the rib cage right here. If you feel there's like a soft spot right under the rib cage, the liver is right about there. And so if you guys are ever, wondering where the liver is, it is on the right side of your body, right under the rib cage. Okay. Let's get into the actual function of the liver. So number one, the liver works as the body's filtration system. It removes waste products and foreign substances from the bloodstream, right? Everyone knows how a filter here works, right? Does everyone know what a filter is?
Yes.
Okay, yes. So basically, the liver works as a filtering organ. It removes toxic chemicals from the bloodstream. It also helps remove bacteria from the bloodstream. And so the liver is this kind of all functioning kind of organ in the body that helps keep the body's bloodstream clean. The liver is also in charge of producing something we call albumin. It's a protein and it prevents fluid leakage into the tissues of the body. And the other important function of albumin is to carry hormones, vitamins, and enzymes throughout the bloodstream. It's kind of like this little it's kind of like this little protein that works as a bag in the bloodstream. It holds a bunch of stuff and it goes around and around in the bloodstream. We also know that the liver is very important in the regulation of blood sugar level. Um, so basically, because the liver deals with so much blood, deals with so much filtering of blood, the liver is also in charge of maintaining the glucose level within the blood. And so, hi Colby, I just saw you joined. We're talking about the liver. And I'm also recording. So, as I was saying earlier, if there's excess glucose in the bloodstream, what the liver will do is it will remove the glucose from the bloodstream and it will convert the glucose into something we call glycogen. Glycogen is how your body stores excess glucose. It's basically a way to store excess energy that we don't need at the moment. And when we do need it, like for example, when we have exercised a lot and we're feeling low on energy, the liver will detect the
Is
fact.
that bladder?
Um, yes, this uh-oh. Okay, hold on, let me go back. This right here,
Yeah.
that you're asking about, Daniel.
Yes.
Okay. I know it's labeled bladder, but this is actually the gallbladder. We'll talk about this in a second. It should have a
Yeah,
GAL in front
My
of it.
I
friend said bladder is weird.
Yes.
my my
Typically,
mom had to like have a surgery because something was going wrong with her gallbladder, and then
mm.
what the heck that meant. So
Yes, okay. We will talk about the gallbladder. We'll talk about the differences between the gallbladder and the actual bladder. But as I was saying, the liver helps maintain glucose levels in the bloodstream. If you're feeling really tired, it will take some of that stored up glycogen, and it will kind of um release it back into the body to turn into glucose and it will help energize your body. It's actually spelled Gall, by the way, Colby, not Gall. But yes, gallbladder. Another important function of the liver is to store vitamins. And those vitamins include A, D, E, K, and B12. Also, yes, thank you, Colby. Perfect. Thank you for doing that, actually. And on top of storing vitamins, ADEK and B12, ADEK being ADEK, it also stores iron and copper. And the human body needs trace amounts of these metals to function properly. Same way we need something like iodine, for
So
example.
we're like machines, basically.
The human body can oftentimes be described as a well-functioning machine, yes. But we don't run on oil or diesel fuel or anything. So in some similarities, we are like a well-oiled working machine. We have parts that work together in our human body, but we're also not made out of metal. So yes, there are similarities and there are differences. The last kind of main function of the liver is to produce something called bile. Does anyone know what bile is?
My friend Ben does.
Okay. So bile is this really kind of like I believe it's very bitter, but it's this chemical that aids in the digestion of fats. It helps break down fats when they're in your body. So if you have a little bit of oil in your food and you go ahead and eat it, like if you have, let's say, a piece of fried chicken, right? There's going to be a little bit of oil in that chicken. And so what happens is when that chicken enters the small intestine, it is mixed with bile to help break down the fats in the chicken. And so that's what bile does. And the liver produces this bile. And now you might have the question, where is bile stored, right? The liver obviously doesn't store the bile. And so what the bile does is it moves away from the liver.
Wait, I have a question.
Yes.
So technically bile is enzymes, but for oil.
Bile is technically enzymes before oil. Yes, kind of. Enzymes don't always help break stuff down. Enzymes can also help catalyze reactions and build stuff. But yes, kind of. Bile is kind of like enzymes. Sometimes we have salivary enzymes that help break down carbohydrates in our mouths, and that's really what bile does. It helps break down fats. So yes, good observation, Daniel. But as I was saying, after the liver produces the bile, what the bile does is it let me get my little annotation tool here. Let me get a green color because bile is typically represented as green. So what it does is it comes down the common hepatic duct and it is stored in the gallbladder, right? So this is what the gallbladder does. The gallbladder stores the bile for the human body to use when it needs to use it. And so usually we call most of like the little organs in the body that store stuff, we call them bladders. And this one is specifically the gallbladder. So specifically the gallbladder stores bile. What's different about the gallbladder as opposed to the regular bladder is the regular bladder that we just call bladder stores urine, right? So when you go use the bathroom, it is urine that is stored in your bladder that is being expelled from your body. Whereas if you go to the bathroom, you don't expel bile, right? That would be weird. If your urine is green, you might want to go see the doctor, because that would not be good, right? But the gallbladder is what stores the bile that is used for digestion of fats later on in the body. Okay. Any questions, anybody, about the gallbladder, the liver, or
which slide is this?
This is slide 2.
Oh.
Yeah, so this is the title slide. This is the function slide, and then we're going to talk about structure and we're going to talk about diseases. Okay. No one had any questions on this slide? If you guys look on the little 1, 2, and 3, these are like the biggest functions of the liver. So protein synthesis, nutrition storage, so production of albumin and storing vitamins. Yep, there you go. And then detoxification and decomposition of toxic substances. This means that the liver is in charge of filtering the bloodstream and detoxifying the bloodstream. And then number 3, synthesis and secretion of bile. It produces bile that is then stored in the gallbladder. Okay.
So if you don't have a liver, you're easier to get sicker.
Sorry, could you repeat that?
If you don't like have a good liver, then does that mean that you get sick easier or die easier?
Yes, the liver is one of the organs that if you don't have a liver, it is very difficult to survive. And if you have a weak liver, it can also be very dangerous for your health. So yes.
Does the bile ever get out of the body?
Generally the bile, why is it flashing? That was weird. The bile typically doesn't exit the body, Jane. So it's not like we can like spit out bile. And we don't really urinate bile either. It's really just used to break down fats.
But what if it overflows?
Right. So the body has something we call a negative feedback loop. It basically means that when the gallbladder is full of bile, the liver doesn't produce anymore. So the liver knows when to stop producing bile so that the gallbladder doesn't overflow. The body is pretty good at maintaining stuff like that. So there's never a point in time where like this entire duct is just filled with like excess bile and bile's like spilling out everywhere in the body. Yeah. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Yes, great. Okay.
That would be bad.
Does someone have a question? Okay. Oh yes, Lena, go ahead.
You said something about bile spilling out everywhere. So, let's just say that a person's negative feedback loop does not work properly. Will it be possible for that to happen?
Will it be possible for the negative feedback loop to stop
No,
working?
like for bile to get all over the place.
I definitely think it would be possible. It's very I mean I've never heard of a medical condition where that has happened. But it would be it could very much be possible that the liver stops receiving signals from the gallbladder telling the liver that the gallbladder is full. So even though the gallbladder might be full, the liver thinks it still needs to produce bile. So it keeps on producing bile. And this entire duct can get filled with excess bile that doesn't fit in here. But there are many, many things that have to go wrong for that to happen. And the human body is generally pretty good at really locking stuff down. And so I've never heard of a situation where bile has overflown past what the gallbladder can hold. But in theory, if the gallbladder stops sending signals to the liver, it might, like this entire duct might just fill with bile. But I don't think that has ever happened before. Is that okay?
Thank you.
Yes, of course. Anthony, what's up?
Can you like eat or drink bile?
Sorry, can you what with bile?
Like eat or drink bile?
Oh, can you eat or drink bile? So you're saying like hypothetically we just had like a glass of bile and whether or not I'm able to drink it?
Yeah.
That's an interesting question. Let me go onto Google and see if I can find an answer. The way I'm gonna look for an answer is I'm gonna search up pH of bile. I don't think bile is normally that dangerous.
You can. I search it up.
Yes. Okay. So here, let me. Where'd my screen share go? Okay, here. Okay. To answer your question, Anthony, generally it is not a good idea to drink bile, but yes, you can drink bile and it will not kill you. It probably will be a bit bitter. I just searched up the pH of bile. It's 8.2, which means it's on the slightly basic side. So it will likely taste a bit bitter, but there's nothing in bile that will physically harm you per se. So I'm not suggesting that you drink bile, but I'm saying that yes, the human body can intake bile, and should be fine. So hopefully that answers your question, Anthony.
Okay.
Yes, of course. But just keep in mind it will taste
Next slide.
bitter. Yes, okay. Next slide. Okay. Let's talk about structure. And before we talk about structure, does anyone want to okay, wait, hold on. They're labeled here. That's a little unfortunate. But this is generally where the liver is located. If you guys didn't know, the liver is the second heaviest organ in the body. Does anyone know what the heaviest organ in the body is?
Stomach?
Good guess, but no.
Brain,
No, not the brain either.
The
This
liver?
is
heart,
The
nope,
liver?
nope. It's an organ that you can see on the surface. You don't have to open up the body to see it.
Skin.
Yes, there you go, the skin.
Yeah.
We classify
Nice.
the skin as an organ, and it is the
Wait,
heaviest.
what? How?
Yeah.
Yes, the skin is an
It's
organ, Daniel.
It's also the longest.
Yes, it's the
Because the
longest
skin has, like-
organ. It's the heaviest organ. But the liver comes in as the second heaviest. It's usually about 3 to 3.5 pounds in general. So it's a pretty hefty organ. And as I mentioned earlier, it's located right here in your abdominal cavity. It's right a little bit above the stomach. It's really sits like right under your lungs, in that kind of abdominal cavity region. Let me check the chat quickly because I haven't checked it in a second. Someone said, where's the real bladder then? The real bladder is closer to your pelvis. So think in the middle of your hips, basically. That's where the real bladder is, closer to Jane, I believe, right? Yes, the real bladder is below the gallbladder. It's closer to your hips. Okay. So as I mentioned, it's that's not what I wanted to do. It's in the upper right hand area of the abdominal cavity. And the liver consists of two main lobes that I spelled incorrectly. Oh wait, it's not spelled incorrectly. Wait, hold on. That's a little weird. Okay. Can anyone tell me why this is happening? It's spelled correctly here, but when I go to screen share it, huh? That's kind of weird. There's like this little white thing right here.
I think it's two things. Either A, you annotated it, or B, B, someone else did it, or C, it just glitched. Try again.
Okay, it's fine. Okay, now it's suddenly working. Great.
Yay.
But as I was saying, the liver consists of two main lobes that branch into something we call lobules. And we'll see this very commonly with nearly all of the organs in the body. You have the main organ, and then it is split up into these tiny, tiny, tiny sections, right? Think about the heart. The heart is one big organ, but it has ventricles, it has atria, then it has these smaller subsections, right? Think about the lungs. It has the lungs itself, and then it has two lobes, right? The right lung and the left lung, and then it's split up into bronchioles, into alveoli, and into capillaries, right? So we kind of see this like hierarchy, this kind of tier, where at every single tier, the scale gets smaller, right? And so lobules are the basic, I keep on doing that. I need to stop doing that. Lobules are the kind of basic foundational building block of the liver, of the hepatic organ. And whenever someone mentions the word hepatic, you will be able to know that they are referring to the liver. I actually don't know why or where the word hepatic came from, but the word hepatic refers to the liver and its functions. Oh man, okay, that needs to stop happening. But as I was mentioning earlier, the common hepatic duct, it transports bile between the liver, the gallbladder, and the small intestine, where the bile is used. And so that's this green kind of that's this green duct right here. And so green is typically associated with bile. The liver has two main sources, has I should say two more major kind of channels leading into it. Number one, the hepatic artery brings oxygenated blood for the liver. So this way the liver cells can continue to have oxygenated blood, and so they can continue to function like all cells need oxygen in the body, right? So this is the hepatic artery will be please tell me it's labeled here. Okay, yes, perfect. It is this red guy right here. If you see in here, and then it snakes off into capillaries into the liver, and that is what brings oxygenated blood into the liver for the cells to function. The other main channel we call the hepatic portal vein, and it brings nutrient-rich blood from the intestines and the stomach to up into the liver, right? So at some point we will learn about how the nutrients in the small intestine diffuse into the bloodstream, and after
I have
that,
a question.
yes, Daniel.
What about the common hepatic duct transports bile?
Wait, sorry, can you say that again, Daniel?
What about the common hepatic duct where it transports bile?
Sorry, what about it transports bile, or like where does it transport?
The common hepatic duct.
Yes.
Where does it transfer bile?
Oh, where does it transport the bile to, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, right. So if you look on this diagram, everything green is part of the common hepatic duct, right? So let's start in the very beginning here. Let me grab my little annotation tool. So all the bile will be produced up here. That's not what I wanted to do. That's not my annotation tool. Hold on, give me a second. Okay, wait. It looks like I have an annotation tool here on the PowerPoint as well. Oh, perfect. I get a laser pointer. Okay, so can everyone see this?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So Daniel, all the bile is produced up here in the liver, right? And so we're going to trace all of these green lines, and this is where the bile flows from all of these little green lines into the gallbladder, right? And when the bile is needed, it comes through the gallbladder and it enters the common hepatic duct. And if you follow this green line, it actually passes behind the stomach, behind the pancreas, and it comes into here. It comes into the small intestine. So that's where the bile is used. It's used in the first part of the small intestine, where fats are broken down. So the bile, it ends up in the first part of the small intestine, which we call the duodenum, which you don't need to know at this point. But yes, that's where the bile ends up, and that's where it's used. So is that okay, Daniel? Daniel? Okay,
Yeah, I said
okay, perfect. Love that. All right, so where was that? Oh, right. Okay. So the hepatic portal vein brings not oxygenated, nutrient-rich blood from around the small intestines back up to the liver for it to be filtered. And at some point, we will learn about how all these nutrients diffuse from the small intestine into the bloodstream. But that is a class and a topic for another day, right? And that is this purple, this is purple or blue. This is this kind of purple vein that runs up from behind the stomach and from the small intestine, right? So it's coming up from the small intestine. It brings all of this nutrient-rich blood into the liver to be filtered, right? And once this liver filters it, it will send it out to the rest of the body, and possibly to the heart for the heart to pump out all of this nutrient-rich blood, to help you guys grow, tall and strong. Right. Okay. Let me, I'm having a little trouble like deselecting, whatever this is. Okay, great. Then now there's drawings all over my PowerPoint. Okay. Does anyone have any questions on this slide?
No.
Okay, perfect. If there are no questions, I'm gonna move on to the next slide. Perfect. Okay. Let's talk about liver damage. And before I talk about liver damage, I want you guys to know that, okay, well, how about I ask you a question? How many of the organs in the body do you think have the ability to regrow? Yes, Lena.
One.
Wait,
The
what was
skin.
the question? Can you please repeat it?
My question is, how many of the organs in the body do you think have the ability to regrow?
Two, because the skin and the brain.
One.
I
Five.
think pretty much all of them.
One.
I mean, because at some point they're still growing. Because like for example, take your brain. Your brain grows by not by adding brain cells, but by adding neuron connections. Your skin grows, it stretches. Pretty much all the organs, yeah.
Right. So over time, your organs will get larger, right? But for the large majority of organs, the cell count does not change. If you think about the heart can get larger because the cells individually can get stronger, but you don't really get new heart cells. If you injure your heart cells die and they never regrow. That's how scar tissue forms, right? That's what can happen during a heart attack. Yes, Anthony.
Maybe one.
Right. So the generally accepted answer is two. So number one, that was a good guess though, Anthony. No worries. So number one, the
I got
skin
it
has the
right.
ability to regrow, right? Everyone knows that if you cut yourself, your skin will grow back in the next week or so. The only other organ with this ability to regrow itself is the liver. Scientists estimate that if you have 25% of your liver left, you can grow a whole new liver, which is really cool.
So, relating to the Greek mythology, like myth of the person who brought fire to the mankind that was trapped in like an eagle ate the.
Epimetheus.
Yes, yes. What Colby is referring to is the myth of Prometheus, who brought fire to mankind against the wishes of the gods. And to punish Prometheus, the gods chained him to a rock cliff, and every single day, a eagle or a raven or a crow would come and eat his liver, and overnight it would grow back, and the next day that same raven would return. And so that is the story of Prometheus and his regrowing liver. But it's true because the liver does have the ability to regenerate. It is the only visceral organ with this ability. So it is the only organ like inside of the body, whereas the skin is kind of like outside of the body, if that makes sense. Yes, Anthony. Anthony?
The liver can regrow in one day.
Okay. So in the story, it regrows in one night, but usually, for humans, it takes a very long time for the liver to regrow. It is not one day, no. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, Colby, what's up?
Last like a long time ago, we talked about skin mutation that like mutates like a bunch of skin, but how about like the liver? If it can also regrow its cells, can it mutate too?
Yes, yes, for sure. Remember that any organ in the body can have the chance of developing cancer, the chance of developing cell mutations. So yes, liver cancer is definitely an issue. It can definitely happen. And we will talk about liver cancer on this slide. But as I mentioned, the liver is kind of the only organ in the body with the ability to regenerate, which is cool to think about. Does anyone have any questions about those 2 points before we?
I think I just got kicked out for some
Oh,
reason.
okay. I don't think anyone else is having that problem, so I think we're good. But let's talk about liver diseases, okay? Number one, the main culprit for liver disease is excessive alcoholism, right? Alcohol needs to be cleaned out of the bloodstream. Alcohol is a toxin. It is in excessive amounts extremely dangerous to the human body, right? So the liver, it sees this toxin and it says, okay, we've got to clean this toxin out. We've got to filter it out of the bloodstream. And it takes a very, very long time for the liver to detoxify the bloodstream. What can happen if you drink a lot is that the liver is always working to filter all of these toxins out of the blood. And it's always working, it's always working. And eventually cells start dying, right? These cells, they lose their ability to filter well, and they become kind of lax, and so they start to die, and scar tissue forms in the liver, and that's really dangerous, right? So alcoholism can directly result to liver failure and liver cancer, right? If a lot of these cells start dying, the liver is going to try to replenish them, and we can see mutations in the cells, and that can be really dangerous, right? Because mutations can oftentimes lead to cancer. Which is scary to think about. However, there are other kinds of liver disease. For example, fatty liver. Fatty liver is this condition where you have so many calories in your bloodstream, you've eaten so much unhealthy food that the liver really struggles to clean out the bloodstream of all of this fat, all of this really unhealthy stuff. So the liver kind of just stores it away, and over time it can build up in the liver. So the liver, it actually becomes like an impromptu fat storage when it's not supposed to, right? Which is really dangerous. And if this keeps happening, you keep on eating unhealthy and the liver keeps on struggling to clean out the bloodstream, these cells, they start dying again. And that's what
Wait.
fibrosis is.
So, when you were talking about the alcohol that was bad, many
Yes.
people say that alcohol also like helps your brain and those stuff. How does that work? Like,
Really? Okay. So alcohol is possibly the worst thing someone with a developing brain can drink. Alcohol is said to sometimes have like good effects on metabolism, like how fast your body digests stuff, how it processes those nutrients. But alcohol is extremely dangerous for the developing mind. It can stunt your mental development. Yes, what's up?
they said that the afterwards alcohol after your brain starts like finish developing, alcohol helps like your brain function better, and I have no idea.
Really? Where did you hear this from? Because,
I don't know.
okay, have you ever seen drunk people, Colby?
Yes.
Do you
They-
think their brain is functioning better?
No.
Yeah, so I don't think so either. Generally, alcohol is a big no-no for anyone whose brain is still developing. Even in minor amounts, it is shown to stunt your growth. It it is shown to like drop IQ points. It is shown to like be extremely damaging, permanent damage, by the way. Any kind of alcohol consumption, even in very low amounts, if your brain is developing, it can have negative impacts for years to come. So number one, stay away from alcohol, kids, especially when you're young. But number two, when you guys are of age, do not engage in excessive alcoholism, because that can lead to liver fibrosis, scar tissue in your liver, and then you guys can have liver failure, which is really bad. That's life-threatening liver failure. And then you guys will need a liver transplant, which is a lengthy process. Okay.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure my dad told me like you have to test it, like make sure that you know how much alcohol you can drink and not like forget stuff and start like hallucinating or something.
Yes. Yes, it's genuinely a good idea to know how much, like once you guys are 21 and you guys are able to drink, it's genuinely a good idea for you guys to know how much you guys can drink. Because if you guys drink too much, you guys are gonna end up hurting your liver. And so you never want to get to this stage, right? Once you get to this stage, it's already not good. But you know, if you guys are ever out with your friends and you guys are over the age of 21 and you guys have one drink, you guys are fine, right? Humans are like we're pretty good at handling one drink, but make sure you guys are your brains aren't developing anymore, and you guys are adults, right? I'm still 17, so I'm still pretty far off the drinking age. So yes, be wise about your choices. Okay, I'm gonna stop my screen share. Does anyone have any questions? Anybody?
No.
Okay, perfect. If nobody has any questions, I'm going to go ahead and end the recording. And you guys can all, for those of you who want to come back and play Gimkit, you guys are welcome to. And for those of you guys who already feel that you guys have learned what you need to and you don't want to play the Gimkit, well, then that is completely understandable. And so I will see all of you guys who want to play the Gimkit back in the meeting in around like 10 seconds. It'll be quick. All right. Thanks a bunch, everyone. All right. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.